music has done it to some extent, festivals have done it to some extent, movies have done it to some extent, but esports hasn't quite brought a major event to the continent yet.
Yeah, and I think I touched upon that in general before. It's about the general standing of esports in Africa, you know. And again, I don't know about how esports is perceived by regular people in Africa, or even amongst children, but it's probably not going to be something that's going to be important or pertinent in general. I think it's something which is just is still at the bottom of the pile. Is, you know, why compared to, say, in the UK, esports and gaming is something which a lot of people do, and they're very it's something which, you know, people game, of course, but to professionalize it and take that to the next step is another thing.
I think this year, just to give you a perspective, sorry to budget, this year, because of the ENC, Esports Nations Cup, which is going to happen at Saudi Arabia in November, it's brought into sharp focus esports, because ENC is a Nations Cup, which is then selected national representatives. So now governments have sort of been, you know, brought in by force to understand that there is an opportunity here to get people to go represent. So the talking point in the country, or various countries, is what is esports? How do we get our teams there, and who's representing what? So we're sort of looking at it from the athlete side. But what I'm saying is that now they're understanding it, now they're talking about it. How can we turn it the other way around and bring in an event? I'll give you another context. There are a group of us trying to bring in, there's an esports event called Evo, which is a fighting game group. Yeah. So we are trying to create the African fighting game, sort of Evo for Africa. And we're thinking, how do we create Evo in Africa? You know, so again, if you want to use that as an example, that how do we create an Evo in Africa? What are some of the basic steps? You can walk us through it, you know, from the lessons you've learned from Blast, from UEFA, and from where you are currently. Walk us through. Use that one as an example. Is help us understand what we need to focus on in the next few months.
It will probably take some years, not months. But to your point, listen, you're going to Blast. What was the main driver of bringing an event to a country? Was money, you know, investment. But again, this is when I was talking about the standing of esports in the country. There are certain countries who really understand and place an importance on esports. You know, like things like the US. Like there's some places like Texas, for example, where they have like event funds where the government can use money to bid for events to bring them to the city, because they know the events are going to bring a lot of economic impact to the city. You know, so yeah, there's a lot of those things in the US. There's a lot of governmental support from Asia, for example, like from Singapore and so on and so forth. So to bring an event is, I was telling you before when we were talking about bringing an event to Africa, it's a money, it's an investment situation. And again, if a country understands places of importance on esports as a tangible and exciting mechanism for doing something in society, then the government will stop money for it. Now, from what you're saying about creating a kind of, you're going to import basically a new version of a variation of an existing event, then I think obviously it's important to probably work in collaboration with the original creators of it, and make it like a subsection of it in a way, you know. Like, for example, one thing that I mentioned about the UFC, but there's an event called PFL, for example, where they have professional fighters leagues. They have PFL in Middle East, PFL Africa, PFL Europe, and it's all kind of connected together, you know. So I think working with the organizers of Evo will be the first thing to do, and obviously, the market of Africa, and I think if it was rather Evo themselves want to bring an event to Africa themselves, that may or that is a risk because they probably don't know the market and the way they advertise or the way they go about their market entry probably will not be correct because Africa is not a monolith. It's not a homogeneous thing. How the gaming industry is in Casablanca will be different to the one in Cape Town, will be different to the one in Kumasi. You know what I mean? So, well, for you, you know the landscape of Africa and the market. So you go to have the smarts and the wisdom to adjust accordingly. So that's the advantage you have. So I would say working in collaboration with Evo, and saying, listen, we have the expertise, we have the market knowledge, and yeah, we can help you. Well, it would be a mutual kind of a benefit to both of you going forward. So, but that's just something I would say, a small thing I would say.
So. Would you say, in something like that, visual identity, tone, and messaging, which one comes in the scale of order? Is it the visual identity of the event, or the tone of the event, or the messaging in trying to brand the event?
So how should they be developed, or
visual? Which one do you prioritize? Either the visual identity, the tone, or the messaging for the event? For a major event, how will you prioritize that?
Visual identity, tone, messaging. Well, when I was at team marketing, obviously they were responsible of doing branding for the Champions League and the Europa League, and then obviously the Conference League when that came about as well. And all those things were very important, like the visuals, the tone of voice and messaging. And like honestly, a lot of work goes into that, like the anthem and the icons and everything you see. A lot of work goes into that. Honestly, I worked with some very talented people who work on that kind of stuff. But I think, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in branding. Again, like there was only some really, really talented people who were doing that as a job. But from what I learned from them or from my exposure with them, obviously visuals are what people see day to day. Like you see the NBA logo, if it's on someone's cap or someone's jersey or whatever. This is what is going to be your advertisement tool, right? Is the the visuals, the colors, the typography, like the fonts you want to use as well. All these things are important because that's going to be the visual of your brand. That's what's going to be everywhere, plus everywhere. If you have an advertisement, that's what people are going to see is your logo everywhere. And then obviously the logo is going to be part of an overall kind of like aura you want to give off, or like a tone of voice, For example, with the Champions League, the tone of voice was premium, it was excellence, it was number one, it was leadership. It was so from the advertisements to the campaigns to even how the social media accounts would kind of post, the language we focus on those kind of elements, compared to the Europa League, which was about ambition, for example, or the pursuit of excellence rather than being the state of excellence, and the Conference League when that came in was about opportunity. That was a about opportunity. It was about challenging. It was about trying to create something for yourself, So yeah, it was all very, very interesting, and all a very scientific approach to an artistic concept. I would say, it was very, very cool. But yeah, and then so I think that's how it works. That's how I would say. It'll be like feels and the visuals.
That's really interesting because even as I'm listening to you and trying to apply that to Esports Africa news and apply that to whatever we do, it seems like, yeah, there are gaps in what we do, and it looks like we need to go back to drawing board and try and review operations and see how we show ourselves to others and how we make them perceive us. In as much as we cannot control how they see us, we need to present ourselves in a way to give them the chance to perceive us in the way we want them to perceive us. So, like the logo, once you see the logo, what comes to mind? Or can someone from afar just at a flash be able to identify the logo either from wherever they've seen it? That makes it very interesting.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
You obviously the teams in Africa are not major teams like Team Liquid, like Red Bull, like these guys from Netherlands, Europe. We want to start from day one. Give us a 6-week kind of thing to say, if you're starting from scratch, right, and trying to build an identity and build an identity that will be remembered, what would you, in 4 or 5 weeks, what would you start with? Walk us through 6 weeks of activities you would have put together to say, I'll do this to build an identity in 6 weeks.
Identity of a team, or like
of a team. So we're going to apply to esports, but not that important. We just want to build a team that has an identity that people will recognize and probably build following from there.
That's tough, to be honest with you, because depending on what it is and what the sport is, identity is kind of born of many things, like location, for example, and like, like, for example, if you look at football, for example, like MK Dons are a team that was created off of the collapse of Wimbledon FC.
Yeah.
So MK Dons is basically seen as a fake Wimbledon, for example. I don't even know if Wimbledon FC actually still exists, or AFC, I think is now, or whatever. But so where you are situated, where you are located, often creates that. Like, again, if you look at the US, for example, they are creating like franchise expansions in the NBA and the NFL, for example, that are going to be based in like Las Vegas or Seattle or whatever. That location, that is going to be a huge part of their identity, So where you are based, where you're located, and wherever the fandom is around that city or country or continent, is going to be a huge factor in your identity. And that is something which you can or you can't control. It depends on what the setup is. But I think that's a huge thing. And then regarding like how else you can set up your identity if you're building a team and trying to apply it to an esports team. I mean, there are certain things which you can, try to make unique about yourself. And again, I'm using a football example to kind of bring it to the fore. But if you look at Forest Green Rovers, for example, who are all about recycling and all about these kind of,
I love that team,
initiatives. So I mean, but that's their identity. That's like their USP. A certain point is about, listen, we're trying to be different from everybody else by doing this. Whether it's working for them or not, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't follow them closely enough to know or not to know. But that is something. It's like, do you just want to be another team in the league, or what is it about you that makes you different? And again, sometimes it's your location that makes you different, but what other things that you can control make you different? What's kind of, if you're a new team, you want to, you don't just want to be part of the shuffle, I mean? And like, if you look at, for example, F1 they've had like 2 or 3 new teams this season. I think like Audi's in there.
Is it a team from
it's
Japan or something? It's a team from Japan, and the Indian team has been there for some time.
so it's not about Japan, but there's definitely Audis in there. I think it's like a Swiss team in there as well, or something like that. But like they've all come in and they've all been different. I think there was one. I think you've seen F1, for example. Everyone is having like title sponsorships. So there's like I don't know. I think it's like Red Bull, Cash App. It's one of the teams. But I think it's Audi who said that we're not, or was it Cadillac? So that we're not going to have a title sponsor as for us because of, I can't remember the reason why. But it's like having a differentiator. I mean, that's something which is minor, but having a differentiator of what makes you different, especially if you're coming in as a new team. It's like, if you're new in a school when you're young, when the new kid comes in at school, and they are they're the flashy toy, and when you get a new girl at school, everyone fancies her, you know what I mean? Because she's new, you know what I mean? And but it's like that novelty will wear off at some point. So what is it about her, or what is it about this team that can make that interest carry over?
That makes it interesting, because I've got a colleague in Kenya, and I'll mention Andrew, because he mentioned something about SDGs, and he's quite keen about that we build esports around the UN SDGs, and I've been researching that, and I find it very interesting, because he says if we can get esports teams and esports organizations to engage around the SDGs, obviously the SDGs give us it gives us direction in developing certain skills, in developing certain attributes. It goes a long way to provide some structure which doesn't just, like you say, the novelty doesn't fade away, but it's consistent, and it's something that can be understood in general. Someone can actually read about it and actually apply it. So again, that is reinforcing the knowledge or the information that someone has provided as well. And that's exactly what you're saying, that you need to identify yourself. Don't just be a team like every other esports team, turn up, recruit people on your roster, go play a tournament, and then what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, be a disruptor. You know what I mean? Like, be different, but just don't be like one of the pack. But again, that comes to planning. You have to plan about how you want to approach things, how you want to stand out, how you want to be. But yeah, that will be my advice.
No, that's great. No, Adrian, that has been really, really interesting, and I hope more teams in Africa will be able to pick up, ideas and develop them further, because it's important that we don't just be like the mist with the sunshine and then we all get we vanish. We should learn from the West, where many people have done things in certain ways and they've not survived and they've wasted millions of pounds or dollars. But we need to develop ourselves to be more sustainable, build around our community and develop better. What would be some of your last words to us?
To you guys, I mean, listen, esports is really interesting industry, I gotta say, man. I mean, again, I'm not a huge player. I mean, if I look at like FIFA now, it's so advanced now, like compared to when I was playing, it's just so far ahead. I mean, the only game I want to play is GTA, so I'm still waiting for GTA to come out. But I think the esports industry is really interesting, and I think, as you mentioned, you were kind of leaning towards talking about like the vulnerability of the financial landscape of esports, and you see a lot of teams, going defunct and losing money. It's a tough situation. It's a tough. It's not an easy thing to establish yourself in esports, and especially in Africa, again, where there's many other things in society that we need to resolve and improve, and there's other things where we would rather focus our money on rather than esports, because then the tangible benefit, or even the intangible benefit in society, is probably not really strong in Africa, because that the opportunity cost is something which is like, you're spending, I don't know, $500,000 on esports in Africa. that could do so much more better for society, you know. And again, people in the West can do that because the West is like, they have more surplus resources, you know. But I think, yeah, whether or not Africa embraces esports to the next level, I don't know. But it's definitely something which shouldn't give up on, or we shouldn't abandon, shouldn't mimic or mock, sorry, or shouldn't minimize. I think it's something which definitely should pay attention to and try to do. And yeah, it's definitely something to not disregard, because again, as the world goes on, I mean, it's going to be the Gen Z are having a lot of voice, and you know, things are going to be leaned towards that side. So at some point, you don't want to miss the boat. You know, you don't want to regret and say, listen, in 10 years' time, Africa doesn't want to say, oh, we should have kept an eye on esports and invested in it because it's doing a lot for society. So yeah, I don't know who you're going to talk to in the governments or whatever to try and convince them, my friend. But yeah, I think it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Well, that would be great, and I'm looking forward to see you again, because I'm hopeful I'll be at the ENC in November this year. Hopefully, you should be around, and let's catch up again. But
Yeah.
Adrian, it's been a pleasure having you, and we really appreciate you sharing your experience and your knowledge in the industry. And I hope people will get to learn a bit more and be able to apply it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll look forward to coming on again if you need me, man. But it was really good to have discussion with you, and to take our kind of relationship forward again. But yeah, listen, it's been great to be here. But happy to discuss about esports, sports, and also Africa in general. Whether it's politics or whether it's sports in Africa, I'm happy to talk about it, man.
All right, great. Thanks, Adrian.
All right, man. See you, man. Thank you so much.
1 second.